This here is the updated Kia Sorento Hybrid. I've already done a full detailed review on the entire Kia Sorento range, but this is my first time driving this petrol electric updated model. I'm going to tell you what I think about it in this review. So if you've already liked and subscribed, thanks very much. If you haven't, make sure you do. You'll keep up to date with all of my reviews, and guess what? They're free. Thanks for watching. Let's get to it. This review is going to be somewhat abbreviated. If you want to see more detail on the Kia Sorento, well, I've done a full detailed review of the petrol and diesel versions. Hit the link in the description below, or you'll be able to check it out by hitting the link at the top of your screen there as well. Look, this is a brilliant car, but the hybrid version, well, it's only available at launch in the GT line spec, and that could push it out of your price range. You'll see the pricing on your screen now for both the front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive versions of this hybrid option, and yeah, it's pretty pricey, I've got to say. I don't think that for everyone it's going to be the right car, but I reckon that the spec list is pretty generous when it comes to what you're getting. This is the GT line, so you do get LED lighting with daytime running lights, LED rear lights, you've got 19-inch alloy wheels, keyless entry, push-button start, a panoramic sunroof, leather interior trim, heated and cooled front seats. You've also got big screens in there, a pair of 12.3-inch screens, one for your driver info, one for your media stuff, and you've also got some really nice finishes on the interior of this car. It does look like the money that's being asked, and it feels pretty nice. And look, if you want to see more interior details and a breakdown of everything about the interior, I drove the GT line before in my previous review, so make sure you do go and check it out. As I said, link in the description, but I want to tell you some really good alternatives to this, and you might be surprised by some of them. When it comes to alternatives to the Kia Sorento Hybrid, well, there are a few that stand out. First one, Kia Sorento Diesel. That might seem a little bit controversial because diesel for some people is a dirty word these days, but I think that the diesel is easily the pick of this range, and it's available more broadly across the range as well. It's a fantastic 2.2 litre 4-cylinder, it's got all-wheel drive, and it's really fuel efficient in real-world driving. You're going to see about 7 litres per 100 Ks in that diesel model anyway, maybe even less, maybe 6s if you do a lot of freeway and highway. But yeah, I would be choosing a diesel version of the Sorento before I would be spending extra to get a hybrid. But another obvious alternative is the Toyota Kluger Hybrid. It is really very efficient, and while it might not have quite as much wow factor on the inside or the outside as this car does, it does have 7 seats, it's got a nice big cabin, it's got Toyota network availability across the country, so it does stack up if you are living in a rural area, and it is super duper real world efficient. You'll see 6s in a mix of highway and urban driving, maybe even 5s in the litres per 100. So it does seem to make a lot of sense. But me, personally, if I'm buying a hybrid 7-seater, it isn't either of those. In fact, it's the new generation Hyundai Santa Fe because, well, it has so much design presence. I think it's a fantastic piece of engineering and design. It's got a beautiful interior, no diesel this time around, which is a shame because I really like the diesel engines from the Hyundai Kia group, but that's the sign of the times, I guess. And it is really impressive. Now, you'll find detailed reviews of the cars I've mentioned in the description, if I've done those reviews, that is. And if you have any other thoughts, if there's any that I've missed, maybe let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. One thing that might disappoint the eco-conscious buyers out there is that, well, the Sorento Hybrid doesn't look any different to the other versions of the Sorento, really. Apart from this one having green paint, it doesn't have any green design elements that might make you think, wow, that one's the hybrid. Apart from the fact that it does have actually 19-inch alloy wheels instead of 20s that are standard on the GT line versions with the petrol V6 or the 4-cylinder diesel. There's only one other way that you can really tell from the outside, well, as far as I know, it's the HEV badge. Hybrid electric vehicle. Now, it is a hybrid. Boot opens down there, by the way. So let's see what the boot space is like. Is it still as good as the other versions? Yes. it is. For the most part, at least. It's still a 7-seater. You can fold those seats up if you need to. And look, underneath this section here, you're not going to find a spare wheel. You will find a jack, and you will find something that I can't open. Secret. But underneath here, there is a spare wheel, which is great to see. Great for rural buyers, great for people who are worried about getting a flat tire. And I think that this boot space is excellent. Now, if you are looking for more details on the third row space and comfort, and the second row space and comfort, and the very front row interior details, well, like I said, you're gonna have to check out my detailed review. Hit the link in the description below, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. Under the bonnet of the Kia Sorento Hybrid models is a 1.6 litre turbocharged petrol engine, and it's combined with an electric motor that's integrated into the 6-speed automatic transmission. And the power and torque figures, they're pretty good. And also it comes with the choice of front wheel drive or all wheel drive if that's what you need. Now, what about towing? You'll see the towing capacity numbers on your screen, and it does seem to stack up pretty well as a family hauler with this much grunt. So let's go and see what it's like to drive, shall we? See if it's efficient too. The drive experience in the hybrid version of the Sorento, well, unsurprisingly, it's different to the petrol V6 or the 4-cylinder diesel because, well, it's a petrol electric powertrain that has the electric motor integrated into the transmission. And what that means is that at low speeds or even on the open road, it can actually go and shift gears in EV mode. So it can be a little bit disconcerting at first if you're not used to it, like when it's shifting first, second, third, but it's EV and you shouldn't really have that momentum feeling of the transmission actuating while you're driving. It's kind of strange, but it's also kind of nice. I like it. It's a standard 6-speed auto, not a dual clutch, thankfully, and that means that it does have a pretty smooth behavior to it as well. Now, it's petrol electric, as I said, and it will jump between petrol or electric or a combination of the two at a mix of different speeds in different scenarios, and it also is pretty good at the way that it does it. You know, the biggest downside, I guess, is that this 1.6 litre turbo petrol engine is a bit noisy, and so it's kind of weird when you've got the serenity of EV driving and then all of a sudden it'll kick into the petrol mode or the petrol and electric mode, and you'll notice that it's yeah, a little bit vocal. So look, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's something you might want to keep in mind. It's not quite as silent, as serene as an EV is. Well, a full-time EV at least. It's doing EV driving right now and it's doing a pretty good job. Now, obviously, being a modern day car, it's got plenty of different drive modes you can choose from. There's a selector down here. It's currently in eco mode because, I mean, it's a hybrid, so that's what most people will probably want to drive in if they want to achieve the best fuel consumption. I'll get to that in a sec. But there's also Sport and Smart. Those are your two on-road modes. And then there's snow and mud and sand if you do plan to go off-road. I am not going off-road in this test because yes, it might have all-wheel drive available, but it's not necessarily an all-wheel drivey adventure vehicle, in my opinion. So, otherwise, the drive experience, well, it's very similar to the Sorentos that I've driven in the past. In terms of the steering, it's nice and responsive, and it has a nice amount of weight to it as well. And the ride comfort, well, it's pretty good too. It does have a bit of a sharp edge to it over sharp edges. So if you live in a place where the road surfaces are substandard, then you might find it to be just a little bit bumpy at times. But honestly, I think that it's a pretty well balanced combination of ride and handling. It does handle itself pretty well in corners as well. There's also regenerative braking as part of this combo between petrol and electric motor and battery pack. So it will replenish the battery with potentially lost energy when you're coming up to a standstill, for instance. It's not necessarily very assertive regen braking. So that means that it's got a pretty honest pedal feel as well. Yeah, I think this is a nice SUV for a family, and I think you're going to enjoy driving it, which I think some other SUVs in this class maybe don't offer quite as much enjoyment for the driver. Okay, let's talk about efficiency because it's why you buy the hybrid, right? So the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure is on your screen now, and that does seem pretty impressive for a big 7-seater like this. Now, if you're wondering what I've seen, well, it's not quite as impressive. You'll see the number on your screen now, but that's certainly a big improvement over what you might see if you buy the petrol V6 version of this vehicle, because in the past I've seen, well, very close to double that sort of number. So yes, it does have its place. I just wish that there was more availability across the range for this powertrain, and I'm sure that that will come later on. All versions of the Kia Sorento come with a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, and it does come comprehensively equipped for the most part across the range. But look, this is the GT line, so it gets everything that Kia can throw at it in terms of safety spec. Things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian, cyclist and junction detection. There's active lane keeping, emergency lane keeping, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and there's also a blind spot view monitor. So when you indicate, a little view of what's happening in your blind spot comes up on the digital driver info screen. There's also a surround view camera system and front and rear parking sensors. So it does have heaps and heaps of safety tech. There's other elements too, as well as a back seat reminder. There's also a safe exit assist system, so it'll warn you if you're going to open your door into the path of oncoming traffic. And there's heaps of airbags fitted as well, dual front, side and curtain coverage. But just keep in mind, those curtains don't necessarily cover everyone in the back row in the event of an accident. So that might be something you want to keep in mind as well. But there's also a front center airbag too. So I think it stacks up pretty well, don't you? It's a Kia, you probably know the story by now, a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty. That's very, very good. But keep in mind that this car has more needy maintenance scheduling. So it's every 12 months or 10,000 kilometres for the hybrid models, whereas the petrol and diesel other versions are 12 months and 15,000 Ks. It's not that beneficial when it comes to the servicing costs either. And because you'll be doing more regular maintenance, it might actually end up costing you a fair bit more to maintain. So that is something you want to keep in mind, but there is a long cap price servicing plan, 7 years or 70,000 Ks, which isn't as good as what you get if you buy one of the diesel or petrol V6 models. But there's also roadside assist included too. So it stacks up okay, but again, maybe not as well as the other versions of this car. So there you have it. The Kia Sorento is very, very good. The hybrid version, well, if you can justify the cost and you really want a hybrid, then yes, it's very, very good too. But personally, like I said, I would be choosing a diesel because it's more readily available, and I think that it's the better powertrain for this application personally. But like I said, there might be other alternatives that you think are better, and I'd love to hear from you. Please let me know in the comments section below if you own a Sorento hybrid, and if you are happy with it, I'd love to hear from you. If you're unhappy with it, I'd love to hear from you too. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.